Hi. Hello, everybody. Welcome
Hello.
to Reserve Seating. We are doing a special kind of loosey-goosey episode this week where we went out to Twitter and we asked everybody, for what questions you might have or topics you would like to hear covered on a Reserve Seating episode. So it is our mailbag edition.
Thank you to everybody who sent questions.
Yeah, thank
Twitter.
you.
Adam,
We're gonna be calling if you don't have an anonymous handle, I think we should go by their first name because we don't know if they want to be
okay.
fully identified. So that's what my plan was.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'm
That's
gonna
good. That's good.
start with our friend Miko, who is a godsend during Scary Movie Month.
We love Miko.
So thank you, Miko, in advance for the work that you will be doing this October. We love you. So he has the most Miko question ever because it's very on brand. Even he says that it's on brand. Top 3 Renny Harlan films. So
Yes.
Rob, what are your top 3? And let's go like 3. You pick. I'll do my 3, and then we'll go in ascending order or
All right.
descending.
My number 3, and apologies to Miko. I'm not a Harlan completist. I've not seen everything, but I do my best.
I'm the same way.
Die Hard 2 is my number 3. I was looking at this earlier. Die Hard 2 is my number 3. I've come around on Die Hard 2 in the last 5-7 years or so. I watched it a couple times in the last few years, and I do like that one. It's not Die Hard, but I like it. My number 2 is The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is a movie I don't know that I like it as much as I want to like it, but I still could put it on anytime and think it's a lot of fun to watch. I'm sure this is sacrilegious. My number 1 Renny Harlan movie I've watched the most is Deep Blue Sea, folks. It is.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not going to speak on craft and say this is the best example of his sort of patina as an artist or whatever. But if you're asking me what Renny Harlan movie I could put on right now and watch and would be glad to put it on, I'm going with Deep Blue Sea.
I'm the same way. I haven't seen all of Renny Harlan's movies. I'm kind of have only seen like the ones that he made in Hollywood for the most part. I have similar top 3, but a little different. So my number 3 is The Long Kiss Goodnight. It's not a movie that I know super well, but I wanted to put in like a Gina Davis, Renny Harlan collaboration. And I think I like The Long Kiss Goodnight just a little bit more than Cutthroat Island, although I had heard for years that Cutthroat Island was no good. And then we reviewed it in a written review a few years ago, and I remember liking it quite a bit.
That would be my 4.
Okay. I think my 4 would be your number 1.
That's fine.
With Deep Blue Sea. My number 2, which originally I thought was my number 1 until I looked at the list again. My number 2 is Cliffhanger, which is another movie where when it came out, I remember people being like, this is not that good. And then like over the years, I'm like, this is incredible. And my number 1 is Die Hard 2. I think Die Hard is a certified classic. I think Die Hard 2 is just suffers by comparison because it's not Die Hard in people's eyes. Although if Die Hard 2 was just a standalone action movie, I think it would be much more loved than
if it wasn't a Die Hard movie, if it wasn't brand new.
But I think Die Hard 2 is great. So our next question comes from our own Anthony King. And his question is, what is our favorite decade of film, and what decade do each of us want to explore more? My favorite decade, and it's just because of experience and when it was formative for me and just kind of how I grew as a movie fan, it's the 1990s. It's my comfort movie decade. It's the movie decade that I'm most familiar with, just from all the behind the scenes stuff and from just familiarity with the movies themselves.
Alive and aware at the time.
And also that was a really special decade for me because in the beginning, that was me growing into like the horror genre, and it was all of my formative blockbusters of my youth were pretty much in the 90s. And then I remember in the late 90s, that's when I got into or actually in the mid 90s, it's like with Pulp Fiction, that was kind of like independent cinema. That's when I got into that. And then in the late part of the 90s, that's when I got into older classic films and like things from, the 60s and the 70s and things like that. So and started broadening my horizons there. So I would say that's definitely my favorite. The one that I want to get more familiar with is the 1970s. I've definitely gone on runs where I watch a lot of 70s movies, and I just think that decade is it's so dense and it's so stacked. But I think just from where Hollywood was with kind of giving the keys over to like these young maverick filmmakers, and because they didn't know, what the youth culture wanted, and then they just allowed young directors who were very passionate to reflect the culture back to audiences.
Yeah, my answer is the same. It's just 2000s. It's for literally for the exact same reasons as Adam just laid out. But I'm a little bit younger than Adam, so for me, it's the 2000. It's 2000 to 2005, 2007. That's so much when I was really becoming as immersed in film as I am now. I always loved movies, but I was definitely like when you pivot toward cinephilia, that's around that high school, college age. Review the World asks, what are our strategies organizing what we're going to watch any given month? I'm not sure if this question is about us or about reserved seating.
We could answer both.
We can answer both. I'll give you the easy answer for reserved seating. Adam's the idea man for reserved seating. Adam will send me a good idea and I'll go, sounds good, buddy. In terms of what we're watching on any given, in terms of our just everyday lives, for me, so much now is driven by new releases. That's the stage I'm in right now because I'm writing so much. So I'm essentially watching everything that comes out every week. I don't watch a ton. I don't do a ton of rewatching right now, but that's just kind of where I am. What about you?
You've opened a door
Yeah.
with this question, and it's something that I'm equally embarrassed to answer and equally like so glad somebody finally asked me. So I vacillate between, I have a very specific strategy, and sometimes I need to completely throw the strategy away if I get sick of the strategy, but I always find my way back to the strategy. So I'm in a sick of it period right now. So now I'm just kind of watching, like, if I listen to a podcast and like they talk about 3 O'Clock High or something, and I'm like, I've never seen that, I want to watch it, then like I'll rent 3 O'Clock High. But otherwise I'm checking, similar to you, like if there's a new release I want to see, if there's a movie playing at rep theaters that I want to see, if there's something I need to watch for F this movie, that always takes precedent almost over anything. And then like just kind of for fun, I follow Blank Check. I usually will try to watch the movies I haven't seen when they're covering a particular director, like a Bob Fosse or something like that. I check, like, just because I like cinemas in LA, I'm always curious what's playing at like the El Capitan, which plays a lot of repertory Disney movies. And since I have Disney Plus, I use that to kind of justify my Disney Plus subscription. I follow what's going on at the New Beverly. I follow what's going on, at the Music Box. I am watching a ton of 2002 movies right now because I do 2K replay, but that is only like maybe half of what I actually watch of the 2002 stuff. Yeah, because I like to revisit things. And my only rule with the 2K replay is I don't want to cover the same director multiple times. So like if it's something where I'm just like, well, I covered one of their movies in 01, I'll just watch that on my own and not write about it. And then I'm on my year-long quest to finish all the John Travolta movies. So I have 5 left. So I'm doing one per month. And I dole that out just kind of as a present to myself, so I don't try to watch them all at once and binge it. All right, so our next question comes from William. He said, we often bemoan the current state of movies, and for good reason, but are there any recent trends in films you can appreciate? I don't know if it's just a fad. I think it'll probably depend on how these movies do, but I am encouraged that E.T. and Jaws and Avatar and Titanic are getting re-releases. And I love that. I especially when they will do like a special IMAX run or some kind of novelty thing, like Jaws will be like in IMAX or real D3D, and I'm just like, that will be the first time I will go to a real D3D movie in like 10 years for sure, because I'm curious to see what a shark jumping out of the water looks like in 3D. Yeah, I think one of the things that was sort of really fun when I was a kid was Disney would always have like one of their classics re-released each year, and you would go to the theaters to see it. And I feel like as we go, as you know, we owe it to kids now and teenagers and things like that to re-release some of the classic movies of the past, to give them the opportunity to see them in a theater, to give fans the opportunity to see stuff. And also, like, Hollywood isn't putting out enough movies for my taste right now. So like, if there's a weekend where really nothing's happening but they do a cool re-release, that's awesome. I really enjoy that. Yeah. So our next question comes from Louis. What are your favorite books about movies or filmmaking? So I'll let you go first on this one.
Just off the top of my head, a couple ones I really like. I have a big stack here. I love Scorsese by Ebert. I think
I've read that. That's really good.
Blair, I think this is a great one, especially because they both kind of speak the same language, but they both speak very different languages. And I really liked Ebert kind of Scorsese talking Ebert through some of his decisions, and Ebert himself kind of coming to some new appreciation for certain things.
Yeah, I like how he'll have like an original review, and maybe it's like he takes it personally that he doesn't like The Color of Money,
exactly.
But then he'll have like a reassessment review and everything like that. It's good.
I really like Karina Longworth's book Seduction, her Howard Hughes book that came out I think last year or the year before. I read this over the summer. This is Hit and Run, which is about John Peters and Peter Gruber and how they took over when Sony bought Columbia, and how they like not ran the studio into the ground, but were really, really haphazard. This one's really gossipy. It's got a kind of Raging Bulls, Easy Riders, Raging Bulls energy to it in terms of like it's a lot of gossip. But John Peters is a complete maniac, and it was a really fun book to read. I liked Patton Oswalt's Silver Screen Fiend, which is really
that was a good one too.
Memoirs about that. Alicia Malone wrote The Female Gaze a couple years ago. This was really good. Essential movies written by women. But then my two favorites, I'm going to say, are my two favorites. I genuinely love the author J.W. Rinsler, who sadly is no longer with us. His making of Star Wars. This is the making of the original. I actually don't have the other two. He did. They published these for Empire and Jedi as well. I love these because the stuff that's in them is contemporary. It comes from the time. So you're not hearing Lucas or Hamill or Fisher talk about Star Wars as Star Wars. You're hearing them talk about it as this grimy little like sci-fi movie that everybody's going to see. So they're very honest and they're very candid about it. And you get to see all the different script drafts and all the different ways that Lucas's ideas shifted, changed. Everything he says now about there was always going to be 6 movies, he's all full shit. Like none of that stuff is true. Like but it's really cool to see how he did take the larger ideas and break them down, and just how the way that the philosophy has, or excuse me, the mythology has grown. My all-time favorite book about movies, though, just to make this quick, is called Making Movies by Sidney Lumet. This is the all-time best book about making movies. There's never been, I use chapters of this in my classes as well, there's never been a more sort of direct and just straightforward approach to like what a writer, director, producer, editor, what these jobs are, what they do, where the camera should go, what a movie should be about, things like, I'm just skimming, like what a call sheet looks like. Literally, like he has examples of that. He's got things like, the 180-degree line, and like why you should put the camera in a certain place, what the philosophy behind a movie should be, no matter, good, bad, or indifferent.
I have 3. I don't have the book in front of me for one of them, so I'll start with that one. But this isn't necessarily about movies and filmmaking, but it's like about a movie star, and it was the biography, The Chris Farley Show. And I really like that one because instead of sort of taking a traditional, from the beginning to the end type of through line, they sort of do that. But what they do instead is they'll have like a chapter that just says Second City. And then what it will be is a bunch of people doing anecdotes. And it's sort of like how the movie 32 Short Films about Glenn Gould was, where it's like they're trying to give you the semblance of this person's life by events and these people's memories of him and everything like that, and kind of lets you do the work in between. So I really like that. I thought it was a really neat way that they did that. And then I have a couple of movie reference books that I go to a lot. This one is my first one. It is called Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas by Alonzo Delardi. And I like this one because it gives you some really good, like, deep cut ideas of like Christmas movies to watch. And I'm always kind of trying to find, like, especially like black and white Christmas movies. So like I've discovered like Holiday Affair through this, and It Happened on Fifth Avenue. And, you know, there's some good essays just on favorites of mine where like they might talk about Little Women being like a Christmas movie and things like that. So I recommend this one. And then the other one, and this one I go to all the time, especially if I'm in October, or just like if I'm in the mood for a horror movie and I cannot decide. They have a sci-fi version of this too, but this one is called Ad Nauseam. It is by Michael Gingold. This is about horror movies. But the thing that's so great about it is all like the newspaper ad photos of these movies from when they first came out. And there's a few that he'll do like little essays about, like kind of like the big movie on that twofold page thing, whatever the biggest movie is, he'll write about it. And he'll put in some like critics quotes at the time. But it's invaluable in terms of, you know, I feel like watching more 90s horror movies, and then I can thumb through this and it's like, well, what haven't I watched in a while, and things like that. And I've had times during Octobers where I'm just like, okay, I got to pick one 1990 movie. I got to pick one 1991 movie and everything like that. And this book always gets pulled out for that reason.
No.
And sorry, our last question comes from Ryan. Any early Scary Movie Month lists you've begun putting together to watch?
I've abandoned all pretense of the Scary Movie Month list. I will start making lists and themes and calendars, and then I will abandon it by my birthday, which is the 6th. I will just bail. So I have done enough Scary Movie Months now where I just go, I'm going to play it by ear. I'm going to wing it. I'm going to watch whatever the hell I feel like watching. I'll watch what some people are saying is good. I'll watch some stuff I haven't seen, but we talk about Burnout every year. No, I'm winging it. You?
For me, I'm kind of similar, where I sort of have like my MO on what I want to do. The past few years, what I've done is I noticed my sweet spot of number of movies to watch in October is 60. Mm-hmm. So I make a list of 60, and I just write 1 to 60, and then I just start watching movies. And when
all right, well, thank you guys for the questions.
Thank you.
We'll try to do this, you know, maybe once a month or once a fiscal quarter. I'm not really sure how that works, but next week we will come back with Summer of Stew. Summer of Stew will continue. We promise, sort of. We're going to talk Snow White and the Huntsman. And until next time.
These seats are reserved. Thanks for the question, everyone.